Hey everybody, hope that you are doing well. Just wanted to provide a little extra assistance on climate control packet number 3. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to read the poem for you. It is Theme for English B by Langston Hughes. Then I'm going to provide a little bit of background about the poem, and after that we're going to talk about the use of language that Hughes employs in the poem to create and set the tone and tell you the story. Then after that, we're going to discuss the themes, and one of your questions asks to discuss the struggle that the narrator is going through. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get to it. Theme for English B by Langston Hughes. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. I am 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem. I went to school there, then Durham, then here to this college on the hill above Harlem. I am the only colored student in my class. The steps from the hill lead down to Harlem, through a park, then I cross to St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, and then I come to the Y, the Harlem Branch Y, where I take the elevator up to my room, sit down, and write this page. It's not easy to know what is true for you or me at 22, my age, but I guess I'm what I feel and see and hear. Harlem, I hear you, hear me, we two, you, me, talk on this page. I hear New York, too. Me? Who? Well, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. I guess being colored doesn't make me not like the same things other folks like who are other races. So will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white. But it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet a part of me as I am a part of you. That's American. Sometimes, perhaps you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you. But we are, that's true. As I learn from you, I guess you learn from me. Although you're older and white and somewhat more free, this is my page for English B. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the background about this poem. The narrator of this poem is Langston Hughes himself. He's writing to his white professor who has assigned him a prompt. It's kind of like what I assign you guys for your vocabulary, but in this case, the professor wants Langston Hughes to go home and write a page about something that is true. So if we look at the journey of the speaker, he came from Winston-Salem. That's in North Carolina. So the speaker is from the South. He came from the South to the North to New York City for education and opportunity. Hughes has the experience of being the only African-American student in his classroom. He's attending school in an overwhelmingly white campus, and we can see that here in the lines of the poem. I am 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem, went to school there, then Durham, then here to this college on the hill above Harlem. Harlem is a neighborhood in New York City. So in the beginning of the poem, we talk about Hughes's journey from the south to the north, and then we talk about this journey from the college campus through the subway and then to Hughes's college apartment. So in the middle of the poem, we actually have Hughes in the process of writing and collecting his thoughts. At the end of the poem, Hughes comes to a realization that the white professor is more free than Hughes is, but Hughes believes that despite their differences in race and age, they have a lot that they can learn from each other. So let's go ahead and talk about the structure of the poem. There's a couple of terms that you need to know. A stanza. So one of the questions asks you about a stanza. A stanza is a fancy word for a collection of lines. So let's count. It's a collection. It's like a group. So go ahead and count real quick. Put pause on the PowerPoint. How many stanzas or groups does this poem have? Go ahead and count it. And if you said 5, you were right. So we have 5 sections of this poem. We have the section the instructor said, then we have the narration from the instructor. We have the third stanza, the fourth stanza, and then at the very bottom. This is my page for English B. So you can write about why are there 5 groups of this, do you think? Why would Hughes have chosen to put this into 5 different sections? Why would Hughes have chosen to quote the professor at the beginning? So think about that as you're answering your question. Let's also look at another fancy word that's called anaphora. So anaphora is a fancy word that simply means the same words or phrases repeated at the beginning of the phrase. So let me flip for. Okay, so on this page right here, can you find any words that are repeated? Go ahead and put pause again and look at this section of the poem and see if you can find any words that are repeated. So if you said I, that is correct. Hughes uses the word I quite a bit in this section of the poem. I wonder, I am, I went, I cross, I come, I take. So think about that in your questioning. Why would he use the word I? Why write the word I? Why do people write the word I? Well, it's probably because they're talking about themselves. And remember, what's the point of this poem? The point of this poem is to talk about something that is true, something that's true for himself. So that could be why he writes the word I so much in the poem. So think about that as you're answering your question. Let's look at another section of the poem that also uses anaphora. Okay, on this section of the poem, we have, well, I like to sleep. I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. So what do we have here? What are some other uses of language we have? Go ahead and see if you can find the use of anaphora or repeated phrases in this section. Go ahead and put it on pause. All right, you probably found I like, and I like. Fantastic. Why do you think that Hughes uses the simple phrase I like so often? Now remember, he's going to Columbia University. That's an Ivy League super elite university. So why is he using such simplistic language? Maybe you could talk about that in your question. There's also another term called alliteration that we have here. We have Bessie, Bop, or Bach. So maybe look up those words and see what they refer to. You might have heard them before if you have a music appreciation class. Why do you think Hughes would use the B sound in this section of the poem? So overall, we're going to talk about and think about when you're writing, why is Hughes including the word I so much? What does that signify? Why does he choose to use alliteration in the Bessie, Bop, or Bach section? Say that 5 times fast. Okay, and then finally we're going to talk about theme and the idea of struggle. So finally, Hughes acknowledges that he likes different kinds of things that don't have to do with his race. He likes to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love, just like everybody does. Even though he has certain commonalities with his white classmates and his professor, he wonders if the page or the paper that he's going to write will be colored because of his racial identity, and his experience as an African-American man is going to be so different from his classmates. So Hughes and his professor, at the bottom of this poem, he acknowledges that they both are American, which means that they are both bound in some aspects of their relationship with the history of slavery. And there's a big word, the African diaspora. Diaspora is a fancy word for the forced enslavement or migration of African peoples across the world. So this is the term that we use to describe the forced enslavement and movement of African peoples out of Africa. So this is something that maybe the white professor doesn't want to share with Hughes, just like there are aspects about African American history that Hughes does not want to share with the professor. The poem was written years before the Civil Rights Act was passed, and when this poem was written, it was actually legal to refuse service, marry, and deny employment, all because of somebody's race. So Hughes thinks about how this aspect of his life will shape his identity and probably will shape his truth when he writes his paper. So Hughes is asked by the professor to write something true. Think about if somebody asked you that. What is true for you? What would you say? Hughes thinks about his race that is something true for him, but he also knows that the truth for him is not the truth for his professor in the same way because his professor is white. His professor is going to have a vastly different experience going through the world as a white man in the 50s than Hughes is as an African American man in the 50s. So Hughes has other interests, hobbies, and passions that aren't related to his race. He wonders where his racial identity fits into those things and also fits into his identity. So he's questioning, just like everybody is when they're young, going through this. Okay, so I hope this helped you out in your questions. If you have anything that you'd like to email or further talk about, or you're still confused about, please feel free to shoot me an email on LiveGrades or my K-12, and I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully when we get back to school. Bye, guys.